Hello and welcome to Setting the Stage. I'm Isaac Shaker, and this is episode 88, DM and Roleplaying Tips with Balance of Aksio, Jay and Sandra and 3RPG. 3RPG was a podcast that I appeared on, so you can go check out my episode for that podcast, 3RPG episode 61. And as sort of a guest swap, I'm also interviewing the hosts of that podcast, Jay and Sandra. There was a third host, Chris, but he was unable to make it due to scheduling difficulties, but he's regularly on the 3RPG podcast. This episode, while we did cover their setting of Balance of Aksio, is more like a general discussion of RPG and GM and player tips, kind of. So that's kind of what it's more about than the usual setting discussion that we do. But there is still a little bit of setting stuff in it, and lots of great tips for you to play and GM. So, yeah. Let's get into it. I'm here today with Jay and Sandra from the 3RPG podcast. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey. Hello again, Isaac. Nice to see you.
Yes, I was on your podcast. Depends on when this comes out for what that counts for, I guess. But yes.
Cross the streams.
Yes, exactly.
Don't cross the streams. That's the rule one.
We're doing it.
Yeah. Well, why don't you start off by saying what the 3RPG podcast is and why there's only two of you?
Yeah.
Go for the throat. No.
Going for the throat. Yeah, you're the third, you see? The third is the viewer. The is viewers like you. Is the person who comes to the table. And also Chris, who unfortunately has an irregular work schedule. It makes it difficult for him to show up at certain times. Well, so the 3RPG podcast was just basically inspired by, one, listening to the Ken and Robin Talk About Stuff podcast, but also just being really intrigued by the conversation that we'd have over the table after a session was done. Like, we finished playing, but people still want to stick around, drink some beers, have some more potato chips, and then you start talking about the stuff that you love, like the nerdy content or the game, and just that type of vibe, where, we take the game seriously. I think it's a really important kind of pastime, one of the oldest ones, in fact. But it's also meant to be a little bit silly, a little bit anarchistic, and a bit fun. Sandra, why don't you pick up where I left off here, maybe?
I think it's also morphed over time. Theory crafting, story writing, to reference what you're saying. I don't think that TTRPG is the oldest hobby, but storytelling collectively certainly is.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were referencing.
Yeah. So, yeah, just kind of like going deeper on topics when perhaps maybe even your group were a little too silly, a little too drunk after a session, but just having a place to just go deeper on those topics.
Yeah, my group tends to be pretty sleepy at the end of a session because of like various time zone or work schedule things. So which sounds like a familiar thing for you guys. And the
beatings. Don't forget the beatings.
And morale will continue. The beatings won't stop until morale improves or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because you have to play the game for at least 4 hours, even a one shot. Right, to sort of get something going, like you roll in and you start playing, and then 4 hours later you're kind of like, oh, do we go? We feel like we just started getting started, but things go long.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. What do you guys? Who are you guys outside of the podcast? I guess I don't really know that far yet.
Oh no, secret identities.
Identities. Well, I'm a university professor in Japan. And my research interests include how RPG will affect anxiety and language learning. Other than that, I'm also a amateur musician / composer, and with Sandra, a game designer. We've lost our first official Kickstarter with the 3RPG podcast, though before that I've produced several games and like Fiasco Playset and what have you, just under another game company. We stay active.
We're busy. In my alter ego, I am a writer. I've written properties for Blizzard Entertainment for World of Warcraft, RuneScape, work in IP management as well. So basically just taking somebody else's like beloved franchise and finding more products to send out into the world for that. Usually I can't talk about any of the projects I'm currently on because of NDAs, but you can just look at my back catalog. So yeah, just a lot of lore nerding and then putting it into print.
So this is creative IPs, right? Not like technical ones for what you said?
I'm not sure what a technical IP... I mean, yes, creative. Let's just say creative. Oh, yeah, no.
I guess
no, this is like...
Those are also creative in a way, but...
video game, tabletop gaming. I don't do too much television or anything like that, but just huge game nerd, so doing what I love.
Yeah, cool. That's what we're in for hobbies. It's cool to have a job that way, too. Which I guess you
Sandra is also a speaker at regular cons that are TRPG or author adjacent.
Oh, yeah. So depending on when this comes out, I will be a panelist and probably workshop presenter at Worldcon, which is LA Con this year in the end of August.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll have it published before then. I'll have to see what we can do.
Put it in the edit timeline. Put it in the edit backlog, right?
Yeah, maybe.
The struggle is real.
Well, yeah, what brought you guys to RPGs in the first place?
Each other.
There it is. Each other.
In high school, kind of. Like, we were friends first, and I don't know.
In band?
Who was the gateway drug person who's like, let's try TTRPG? I was not the first, so.
Eric Camilla, a friend of ours who has passed on. But yeah, we met in high school as part of the high school band, and nerds unite.
Stronger in numbers.
It was like, let's try this game called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Ooh, it makes us cool. We're playing the advanced version, so we all just collectively picked up the books and then kind of read them on our free time, and then said, like, I think we got basically the handle of this. Let's do it. And I opted to be the storyteller, or GM, I guess. Sorry, DM. And that's sort of all she wrote. And it was just like, yeah, this is fun. And so then we just started doing that, like, pretty much every week, kind of rotating houses, to save our parents from us being up until 2 o'clock in the morning on the Saturdays,
I remember that,
right?
Yep.
Yeah. But it kept us kind of away from being... I mean, we were being pretty stupid. We were high school kids, but being stupider and doing things. Yeah.
I mean,
we were eating pizza and drinking coffee in the basement while wearing museum replicas outfits and swinging around non-padded metal objects at each other.
Yeah, back in our day, it wasn't Nerf.
I had padded ones in my house, but whatever.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, we weren't that smart. I think I still have a few kind of leftover scars on some of my fingers when a friend of mine hit me with an axe.
Yeah, you're not trying hard enough if you don't have a few scars.
The band thing also sounds like very typical, because I think everyone within my high school group was also in band except for me.
Right.
Oh.
What was your hobby of choice then, or your after school activity?
Soccer and
soccer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was a jock. Get him.
We had a lot of lacrosse. I feel like crossover in band too. So like for some reason that was just the sport.
I think it just connects, doesn't it? It's like, I was in the chess club. We got our milk and chessboards. They gave us little cartons of milk. They gave us milk. Anyway,
why'd you get milk? What the heck?
I don't know. Yeah,
nerd.
It just kind of connects that. Like, music is a creative endeavor, and same thing with Imagination Land, man. And from there, that's sort of like all she wrote. Yeah.
And was Chris part of that original group as well, or was he added on later?
Chris was a band nerd. We found out he was a band nerd, but different location. Like he's Toronto, I think, from Toronto. So
yeah,
a bit parted. We're from New Jersey. Sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah. I met Chris in Japan. They were a mutual friend of ours who introduced Chris to the hobby. And then that friend said, "Oh, well, you should definitely get in contact with Jay. He's,
He's cool.
A good GM. Yeah, he's cool. So then we met up and we started gaming, and then Chris was the guy from what we were talking about before, who after session would love to just stick around and just chat about the session for hours. And
it's 3 a.m. Chris, like, go home.
yeah. Which, so like avid viewers of the 3RPG podcast will note that like the first episode was just sort of me and Chris, right? We were like, let's just hit the record button and see if we like the sound of our own voices and what we have to say. And then after we were done, we're like, well, that was pretty good. I could actually stand listening to myself for a while. But we need like another third voice, another balancing agent, and this natural
when they
choice
couldn't
was
find
Sandra.
That, they brought me in.
When they yeah. Maybe we agreed too much, Sandra. I don't know. I don't think so.
No. We've had some tiffs, I think, in some of the recordings. It's fun. It's fun to listen to them. Like, oh yeah, we disagreed hard on that.
There's some of my favorite when we don't get on the same page, because then that's where something comes out. Yeah. If you're disagreeing, it's just like, Dark Knight was a good movie. Yeah. Okay.
No,
moving on.
It was.
No hot takes, right? Yeah. Done.
The hot take is that it should have been an R movie, but not why.
You're right. 100% should have been an R movie. Yeah.
Do you guys still play together?
Every Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah, we took a break there. Like, we went our different directions career-wise and things, and then
life happens.
Yeah. And Jay found me on Facebook, reached out, like, hey, we started chatting, and had a little reunion session with everybody we could pull back together, and it was like, oh, this feels just like it used to. And then I don't know, it took us still, 2-3 months to pull it together, and we've been playing since.
Regular, yeah. Yeah, we had the reunion episode, kind of, I call the sessions episodes because I see everything so, like, I feel like I'm a film editor whenever I DM, basically.
Right.
And that was just, like Sandra just said, it really clicked again, and we're like, let's make this a regular thing. Not only do we get a chance to sort of be part of each other's lives again, which is like the kind of unsung hero of D&D groups, you just get to meet your friends and chat, and you're under no
murder hobo with them.
yeah, and then murder hobo with them. Yeah. Right, I'm sure it's similar with your group, right?
Yeah, we had I think a shorter hiatus. It was only like maybe a few months at one point. But yeah, similar story. Started playing in school. We kind of drifted a little bit for college, and then came back together. It's before there were good virtual tabletops. So initially, it was me pointing a camera at a battle map because I had all the miniatures.
You were the minis guy. You need one. Every team needs one.
Yeah, and Roll20 and the subsequent iterations of other virtual tabletops has been very nice.
Wait, so did you do Warhammer as well?
No, we didn't do Warhammer.
Okay, but you must have had some of the old pewter minis from back in the day that are like like a compressed star. They're so damn heavy.
People with them.
Yeah, I inherited my dad's collection, and then I have a bunch of the Reaper ones. Was the usual company I was getting.
Very cool.
I'm kind of sad that they've moved away from the metal ones into just doing plastic injections. Because they don't paint as well.
People with a 3D printer, though, are pretty happy about that, because that's awesome. Like, you could just, if you have a design ability, wow, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. The plastic stuff is great because you can just get whatever you want, or you can design it with Hero Forge, and it's not that different of a cost compared to buying the pre-made plastic ones. But just the paint quality for metal is still like so much better.
Interesting. I don't think I know anybody who was doing metal, so that's interesting. Yeah, everybody I know who does this weekly, it's all like 3D printed or the kits that are modern day.
Yep. Well, I miss it.
I never got into minis collecting, not for lack of wanting to do it. I knew I'd be too into it, probably.
Yeah,
I want to start another hobby and like find a space for it. Like I'm a avid board gamer, and maybe that's why I gravitate more towards theater of the mind playing when we're doing RPG because I like a lot of the old like Avalon Hill kind of hex encounter war combat simulation games, which are really heavy grid games or hex games. And so I kind of don't want that in my RP in a weird because it's more about storytelling, but not that the
variety, little buffet of gaming.
That's right. It's the spice of life.
I mean, wargaming, yes, there's a lot more for that just because like what you have to have is so much bigger. But for RPGs, like once you have a decent collection, it's less so like I want a wizard. It's more like I want something for this specific character. Because I have a lot of wizards. I have a lot of people with swords. I have a lot of dwarves. I don't have a lot of halflings. So if I have a new halfling character, I either need to use a dwarf miniature or I need to go find a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
use your imagination.
My 3 halfling miniatures that I already have.
Appropriate one from like a Lord of the Rings board game or something.
Yeah. Also, not a lot of women characters. That's another issue with a lot of the minis. A lot of them are male.
All of them in bikinis.
And all the women ones are in like armor bikinis. Yeah. Oh boy.
I have one armor bikini one. The rest are fully clothed.
One. That's classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vallejo kind of style fantasy lady.
Where were we? So Jay, you're the main DM for the group, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Do you rotate around a little bit, or is it just Jay?
Sandra, I'll let you field that one, I guess.
I mean, it's not that we don't have other. We do have another player who is a DM for other groups. So it's not that we wouldn't have it. It's just this is going to be the one like big fluff up for Jay. He's really good at it. I mean, he's been great at it since the 90s, and he's only gotten better. So I think it's just kind of we all just kind of settled into the roles around the table, and there's no reason to change it if everything's working.
Fair enough.
And I spend my day crafting story. I don't need to be doing it in my off time, so I'm glad he does that.
I thought that might be the answer for you.
Yeah.
And because of the gap in time from when we were playing in high school to now playing as an adult, I think that was really rewarding because then we had a chance to just like experience life and make mistakes and go figure out some things. Now when we came back to the table to play again, our stories were much more sophisticated.
Oh yeah.
Like naturally than when I can't even imagine if I had recorded ourselves playing back in high school what we would have sounded like.
It would be so wholesome. It would have been wholesome.
Maybe, or just
we wouldn't want
the
that
utter cringe.
But...
Yeah.
I think the story side of my games has definitely also evolved over the years to be much better than what it was when I was in high school.
Yeah, and that involves the more you read, the more cinema you consume, and just other hobbies and life experiences that you have, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of listening to old sessions, that's the one thing, oddly, that I could never get into with the hobby is watching or listening to live play sessions on YouTube, which are in abundant. Like even Critical Role and things like that. I just, whenever I even start listening to those, it just makes me want to turn it off and then just go and call up a few friends to play. I'm like, why am I listening to this? That's not to throw shade at what they're creating, but I've never found myself inclined to listen to one all the way through. I don't know why.
I listen to a lot of them for my show as like research for guests. And I feel like it's sort of made me into like a wine sommelier or something, but for actual play podcasts and shows.
What, it's got a peaty base, or what is that? Is that cranberry up in there?
Kind of, yeah. Like there's this one I was listening to that had like really good music, but the actual like gameplay was quite boring, and they didn't have very good like character moments. Like each of the characters was sort of unique in their own way, but it wasn't anything that felt relevant because they weren't using those traits to tell a story. They were just using them to kind of mess with each other and play off each other in a more improv-y way.
Link down in the show notes. No.
Well, there's this other component, like the really good ones are edited. So they'll cut down a lot of that extra stuff that doesn't matter for like rolling dice and adding up bonuses. It's not entertaining. Just like, okay, you make an attack and I got a 27 instead of I rolled a 5 and I'm adding all my numbers together. Oh, I had advantage. No, just cut to the 27. We don't need to hear all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires more work to edit it and make it look that way. And a lot of actual plays don't do that. And then it's not as good a product.
It almost is one of my pet peeves as a GM when I'm at the table, and then like the players start throwing out the questions about like, oh, they have an idea that they want their character to do, and then what gets in the way is, oh, but is the 20 feet away or 15 feet away, or like I'm like I don't care. Like I don't care. Just do what you think that you want to do, and then roll it. And I'm sure I've got a lot of detractors on that. People are going to say, no, that's the different games, right? I lean into the narrative storytelling element, and I find when you do start saying, okay, I got to add my modifiers to this and that, and it's not smooth, it like you kind of get lost from the moment. You have to rebuild the tension, especially if you're in the middle of a big, epic, swashbuckling sword sequence. You kind of want to keep it snappy and fun and Errol Flynn-like majestic. But if you're every roll, you're having to stop and figure out, okay, no, but I'm at disadvantage because I'm off foot, and it's like, oh boy.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about virtual tabletops for my group is that they handle so much of the math that like doing an action is clicking a button.
Yeah,
and it'll do all the math for you, and you don't need to worry about those missed bonuses because they're already taken into account on your character. So that's been really nice.
If you've moved your character over onto the uneven terrain or whatever, then it just factors it in. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. If you're using the highest quality of virtual tabletops, you're set.
Right. And some of the modules even put all that programming into that. All those what do they call them? But yeah, they pre-program it in there, right?
Yeah. So I'm running my group through one of those right now. That's all pre-programmed. It's very, very easy to use.
Nice.
It even does flanking without you having to like do it, which I was surprised by. I thought that would be something I'd have to like flip a switch to make it work correctly, but nope, it knows.
Oh.
We just got off of doing a kind of mini side story in our grand campaign world, which was basically a reskinned Dungeon of the Mad Mage with the published Roll20 module, which is nice. It's got all the kind of character sheets and all that kind of stuff in there. But once the players are looking at the actual dungeon map and, with the rooms all shaded out, and it's got little doors that are programmed to be locked or openable and all this, the nature of the role play immediately changes, I think. Maybe as a player, Sandra, you could speak more on that.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. Whether it's just sometimes there's just technical issues, and we kept having problems with the doors for some reason, and it would grind the session to a halt. Like, why can't we get our characters in the door? And it's like, no, don't worry about it. But it's almost like the argument between like having some parameters and too many parameters. I feel like, and we've had conversations with Chris in certain episodes where he loves all of the crunchy bits because somehow that makes it feel more real to him. So I can definitely see how the battle maps, all the additional math being done for you, like how it tells a different story in a way than the ones that we tend to. But they're both good. They both like are rewarding and get you to an end story that feels earned and well played. It does just feel different.
Maybe a little slower, perhaps.
I didn't feel like necessarily slowed down by having all the extra visual maps and things like that, but it was making us focus on like, well, how like the realistic distance to cover the hallway and things like that.
Yeah.
And it does add a different layer of storytelling, but I'm more chaotic. I kind of like just being like, no, you went down the hallway. I'm very much in that camp.
I think there's some cases where maps like lets you be more active in the story because it doesn't rely as much on the GM describing what's going on.
Very true.
Like in a session I was running last month, the party came to like this cottage and there was like a tool shed behind it. And I didn't describe the tool shed initially. They just saw it on the map, so they knew it was there. So then they went over to it, opened it up, and I said, oh yeah, there's a bunch of tools inside of it. And, it didn't require me having to describe the scene as much, so they could be more like themselves in it because they weren't filtering it through me.
Yeah, and if you're playing in a mystery adventure, perhaps by mentioning the tool shed, you're sort of subtly nudging them to go in there because there's a clue. But if you just present
it's a Chekhov's gun thing, right? Like there's this big issue with DM narration where usually you only mention things that are important, so then players pick up on them and they'll focus on them. Or you have to mention a lot of extra info, and then that almost veers into writing a novel or boring your players because they don't want to hear about the color of everything in the room.
Yeah. Hey, I'm monologuing over here.
Yeah, and then there's a green book next to a blue book next to another green book. Like describing a library that way is not fun.
Yeah.
And if I have like a picture ready to go, then they're like, okay, this is a clue for something. One of these books is important. Or there's some sequence that we have to figure out. And that's like too much information in the other direction, where if I have a prop prepared, there's a reason for it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then that said, if there's sometimes too much detail on the map, then those are the things the players will add to their role play. If they're in a tavern and there's like the little mini bottles that are drawn in, they may say like they're going to go over there and say I pick up a bottle rather than pick up something that might be in this fantasy bar, which is like a jar full of tentacles or something like that, right? So like they'll choose the objects that are drawn on there. Yeah, like tequila. Tequila is a Cthulhu drink.
Yep.
Yeah, and it tends to become, like on the negative side, it can become a little bit dollhousey, where it's just like, look at here, where's my character standing? And the best moments for me when we're using a map are when they are like almost like a mnemonic for, a lot of moving parts that are happening at the same time. You've got like 7 different enemies and 3 different factions who are all fighting. So where is everybody? I can't keep it in mind. Well, here's the visual reference. There you go. Where are things? No, things are kind of moving and fluid. And this is sort of like just a general area of where they might be. Like if you're playing like a stealthy video game, and when you disappear, there's like the little shadow of where your character used to be, and that's where all the enemy AI is going to go. Like that kind of idea, which is what I prefer. But
yeah, my experience has been similar, where even when we're doing like a less like rigid game, like for Powered by the Apocalypse games, a map was still very helpful. Not because we needed it for like tactical decisions in combat, but just because it framed where everyone was relative to each other in a similar fashion. So like I say, I'm going towards the door when I'm in a garage. Does that mean the big door that opens up to the outside or the door that goes to the inside? Well, if I move my character towards one of them, without having to ask, and it just makes that a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
We do almost always have some form of map open, though, while we play, be it the world map or the area map or just a kind of map of the city with some of like the, like ABC written out that shows some of the points of interest, like a tourist map might have Paris. It says, well, here's where the Eiffel Tower is, and here's the thing, just to kind of give players a kind of a reference point to like what they could possibly go see or visit or whatnot. But once you start getting down to what street am I on? I'm like, oh boy.
See, but I want to know. I'm always nailing you down for like, okay, are we near this landmark? Are we near this? Are we doing this? Oh, do you remember that history bit? So
just take it back to your players. What's the name of the street you're on? You answer it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy certainly does that. I'm like, wait, I got it in the notes.
Yeah, I do like when you ask those questions though too, because then that just gives me a little chance to even think about something that maybe I didn't think about, or to sort of actively participate in like the role play, right? Whereas like if you have a session all the way written through, which mistake, you're forcing your group through that storyline. Whereas usually when I make a session, I've got 3 lines that like I gotta hit that beat, might hit that beat, this beat if I'm lucky, and then we rarely do, right? Yeah, because you guys always zig when I wanted you to zag, but then that makes it exciting, and I gotta think on my feet. But I'm always being honest.
Yeah.
but then there's another thing that I like to do politically and for world building in my game, but maybe we can get into that later. Maybe this is the time. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good time to introduce your world. So what is it called?
Well, it's going through a lot of. It's sort of in a beta phase right now.
Okay.
So I think the main name for the kind of game setting is going to be the Balance of Aksio. But that is not referencing the world. It's more referencing the magical system, or kind of the system and struggle between kind of chaos and order.
Okay.
Sandra, do you want to jump in here maybe?
And it's kind of hilarious because my whole backdrop right now on the computer is a world map of the campaign world, and yet we can never settle on what the world is called. It goes through different phases, like, that's not quite right. Nah, we'll figure it out. It'll get there. But yeah, the rest of the world just has such like amazing vibrancy. You can see little hints of the fascinating things that happen in the real world, but everything feels very uniquely special to this world and not just like plucked or borrowed, or it's just, we're not just in medieval Europe kind of a thing.
One of the problems with naming the world itself is just like naming the world that we live in now. Like, we call it Earth because we're speaking in English, right? But if you're speaking a language, you're not calling it Earth. It will mean Earth in various languages, Chikyu or whatever in Japanese. Yeah. But like, so what do you, if I name it like Terakon, which is like one of the names for one of the nations on Earth, well, now it's sort of coded the whole booklet with the central figures, and that's one of the problems. And so in order to sort of get away with that, like naming the whole module just over a system, even by calling it Aksio, is somewhat problematic, because Aksio is the name that certain groups of people call magic. Yeah. But you can't just call it the balance.
5 different names that we're aware of for magic. Yeah.
Yeah, that whenever you move over to another setting, we have to like change all the vocabulary. Okay, no, I'm playing a character from this country, and so I don't refer to it as that. I refer to it as charm rather than Aksio, and then that becomes part of the being in the world in a sense. But when making it as a module for like the general public, it's coming into some design challenges with that. You don't want to lean someone into like this race, but I'm not going to write the whole book in Elvish, Maybe, who knows?
Well, why not?
And I think that's, for the established settings, that's how the Kingdoms of Kalimar approached it, is they just named it after Kalimar because that's their sort of Rome equivalent.
Yeah.
Even though that's not what the continent is named, that's not what the world is named. It's just the name of basically Kingdoms of Italy, if you wanted to translate it. And yeah, it is a sort of specific focus on a central country. I agree. Right.
There's like an implied like hegemony to like naming the world after like a certain place, and you kind of want to get away from that, because one of the central themes under running the campaign world is this kind of struggle for your little corner of the world, whether that be a shop that you're trying to run, or a kingdom that whose borders you want to expand, ruh-roh, to just finding a partner and trying to have a family. Like, all of these themes are sort of central, and then because they're all kind of happening at the same time, that's what, like, the main theme of the game is sort of emergent in that. It's just like this kind of almost animalistic struggle for survival in the end.
Yeah. So you said it's in beta, but you've run sessions in it, I'm assuming, and Sandra knows about it. So is that referring to some sort of like Kickstarter release in the future for the world, or something else?
Sandra, do you want to handle this one?
Yes. There's a lot of work in the background right now of building up lore databases, things like that, to try to home in, like, where do we want to start the focus of the world for potential players. It's right now it's kind of like my weekend job while I'm doing the same thing for my real job. So there's a bit of, just trying to find enough time between everything else that's going on. And of course, we launch another game right on Kickstarter and things like that. But I think we're both like super passionate about bringing this world that we've been playing in, living in, loving, crying, all the emotions in, hopefully we can have like something of a release, something of a teaser coming next year. But we got to get through the other promised projects first.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, so like as Sandra mentions, like it's about choosing like, okay, do we just introduce the whole world and that's part of it, or do we like slowly release sections of the world, the one area first, and then just slowly build out, right? And go that way. So yeah, there's a lot of design decisions to be made yet. But one of the things that I really think is neat and original about it is it allows other people within your friend group who are maybe too busy to play but also want to be part of your world and a active role in your game world. And to elaborate a little bit without potentially spoiling anything, is you basically, as the game runner, you set up a series of kind of motivations and then prompts that you can then give to your friends who can't make it to the table but would love to play, and you give them a role within the world, either the king of this country or the leader of this army or the labor union representative or whatever, and they've got a thing that they want to accomplish, and then you essentially just give them a series of bullet points of things that are happening in the world at that time, and they respond to how they would react to that. And then through all of these reaction comments that you get back, you basically have this kind of living, breathing, and now kind of active world that's happening in the background. And then I, as the GM, can now sort of like narrate little moments that are happening to the players, but all the world moving, shaking things is sort of like out of my hands at this point. It's all happening via other people in my sphere of influence that are sort of sending me like, oh, I'm going to invade that country. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Like I could have been subtly biased by like what my players are doing I want to hotten up the drama here by having an invasion happen. But now am I subconsciously forcing something to happen here? Whereas now it happens a little bit more organically.
Okay. So is this more of a world or a system for having that kind of decision making? Or is it both together?
Both.
Very much both.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the first year of playing with this idea, Sandra and the other players at the table had no idea that a lot of the other like active NPCs, like the kings and lords and armies, were being played by other players. And then when I revealed that to them, it just made those characters all the more scary.
Yeah.
Because now I'm not going to do some sort of plot armor thing where, oh no, the characters kind of went into the wrong area and, got ambushed and destroyed because, I want them to get to point X. But now they've got to be real clever about how they're making decisions because they know that, what they're doing while the other people playing these active NPCs, essentially, who are not at the table, are not necessarily seeing the names of who the player characters are. They're seeing the ripples of their actions, right? Oh, this sort of riot has flared up in this town. What do you do as the king? Do you suppress it? Do you try to appease it or whatever, right?
It does make it easier because you're, as a GM, usually you're trying to balance like a bunch of different characters and like trying to take into account all of their motivations. And yes, also like your own like story ideas, but by sort of outsourcing it, you don't need to do that so much. You're just sort of presenting information to those people, and then they can make ridiculous decisions or not, depending on how they feel like that character should be played.
Yeah, I'll give these other players a kind of character profile. Like this is where you start as your character. These are sort of like you're a bit hawkish or something like that, but as that character gets introduced to more information, they tend to just shift and they say, okay, well, this war isn't working for me. I'm going to try to find ways to sort of make an alliance happen. And now I basically have two other people in my realm of influence who are talking to each other through me. And they don't know if, like, sometimes I'm acting as one of these NPCs or there's another person who's sending me the information that I'm then sending off to them. And, it just becomes this weird, I become this, like, central hub post office where I'm just relaying messages of the things that happen. And people who are really into it will be more active and send more and more details back and forth. It's almost like you're playing AFK diplomacy. where you're sending messages to each other rather than in real time.
Yeah, it does sound a lot like when I was doing that.
Yeah. That may have been the like initial inspiration for making this kind of system, because I'm a big time diplomacy player. I loved it. Sadly, I can't get it to the table so much because of the weird, like, this is the friend breaking game that it has. But it's like,
what, Uno?
I totally disagree with that.
You can't win diplomacy without breaking alliances.
True.
That's right. True. Yeah. So what about you then, Sandra, from like the player perspective, like when that was sort of either revealed or like knowing that was a thing, or
all right, this could be
did it affect
a bit of a hot take, probably, or maybe like the longer a player has played, these kind of games, they'll be like, yeah. But there's a certain amount of like, I hate the word manipulation because it always sounds so negative, but there's like a bit of a game of trying to get what you want to happen through the GM, right? Like, you have your ideas for your character, there's things you want to achieve, and you try to figure out a way to make those happen when maybe they shouldn't be happening, right? But if all of a sudden the real enemies that you're up against are no longer controlled by the GM, they're strangers you'll never probably meet. When I say probably, because that's a funny little side note. But all of a sudden, when you know that you can't exert influence at the table, because those people are not at the table, you do play a vastly different game. You maybe you're a little bit more careful because you don't have like the plot armor or the sympathy vote or the anything. You be a bit more sneaky. Like I feel like in that first campaign where we did this, I spent most of my time trying to figure out how I was going to get from point A to point B under the radar of these people, and whether or not I wanted to kind of directly attack them. Like, what kind of folly would that be? And it's just something that I don't think I would have actively pursued as a player and with this character if Jay was the one who's completely in control of every part of that story. There's just so much spontaneousness from these other players. Like, they were invested for sure, but they did things Jay would never have done.
Once you know your GM long enough, you know how they might react to a situation, right? I'm going to go see a Scorsese movie. I kind of know what might be in there, right?
Exactly. And the side note is the one character that we at the table hated the most was like the enemy against us, against our efforts, turned out to be Chris. And I didn't know Chris when we were playing that campaign. And then, I don't know, we were like several episodes in and you revealed that he was that enemy. And I'm like, you son of, Chris is so nice. And that was the first time I cursed at him.
But he was playing such a cutthroat character who was just cutting you off at the pass in every moment, just foiled all of your plans, which was just great.
Jerk.
And to make it even more kind of rich as a storytelling world, your characters, Sandra, were really aggravated as to what they were doing. The actions that his character were doing were not necessarily wrong from that character's perspective and people within that realm of the world, which then on the next story, we had you play characters within that frame of reference. So I'll often have players play as multiple entities within the world on either side of the conflict, or even adjacent to the conflict, and we'll just kind of jump back and forth, or we'll see a story through to its conclusion on one side, and then kind of like maybe reverse back. And then while that's going on, this is what's happening from the other side, and you're watching, as the heroes go through and just torch this evil magic empire, which, to the people who are the evil magic empire, just making this magic because it creates our food and water or whatever.
I mean, you literally had me fighting myself during one battle, so that's kind of insane.
Yeah. When they finally met up, it was just in the battle. It was organically in this sort of World War I battlefield moment, and it was like you're in a muddy ditch, and as you stood up, and there was your other character, and it was just like, oh boy, here we go. Yeah, so it's like, well, now how do you play it, Sandra? And it was basically thematically throwing it over to her to say, okay, well, are you going to go to sheer numbers with this and just see, or are you going to somehow be influenced by your love of one character over another to see who you think lives or dies?
Nope. I'm a purist. Nope.
Yeah. So you could see how before I was talking about sort of like an emergent kind of gameplay philosophy, it comes about through all of these little things that are happening, these sort of interactions between disparate entities in the game world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Well, what is the actual world like? Is it like one continent, 5 flat, round?
Yeah, square. Yeah. Oh well, it's just like our world, completely flat.
There's some old RPGs where the world is a cylinder because you can go around east to west, but you can't go north or south.
Yep.
Yeah. It's on a slightly larger than Earth-shaped planet that has poles, and I've kept the environment the same because you don't want to have to like stretch the imagination too far away from. Because in a way, I kind of want to keep it grounded. Time period wise, it's set in sort of a mid to late Renaissance with gunpowder and swords, essentially. But also there's trains and dirigibles and things like that. Depending on where you are in the world, there's sort of expansionist tech-like empires. There's more sort of naturalistic-based kind of or Viking type empires. But there is a one-to-one correlate for a lot of sort of like the nations on Earth that are either a combination or like a sloppy portmanteau of multiple places on Earth, just to give it a kind of grounded feel.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple continents, more than 30 plus nations, of which within each of those nations, some of them are fractured, functioning, less than functioning, multiple kingdoms within one. Like the United Kingdom, multiple countries within. So like it's a bit of a mess.
I mean, we've broken some of them.
Yeah, and it's constantly in flux as well. Yeah, so that's another one of the design challenges to say, okay, well, what starting point do we go here? Like when things are at their worst, or when things are at the best, or when things are stable, and how do you even judge?
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to jump on there, Sandra, with any more from the player's perspective again?
I think the only thing you didn't really touch on is time. There's a really robust timeline to everything. So depending on if you do like that kind of like pre-technological era where there is no guns or and even that's a bit of a misstatement, because there was tech and then the tech was gone. And so little pockets of tech get discovered and you don't know what to do with it. And then there's like other golden ages for various countries. So whatever kind of a era that you're looking to play in, it's probably existing somewhere within the built out range of this of the system, of the world, of everything. I think we've played actively amongst about 200 years of it. From start to finish,
even more, I guess, probably double that. Yeah,
probably more so, yeah.
If we put in the time that we played in high school, then yeah, definitely a much longer scale of time. Yes, but to jump on what Sandra's saying, yeah, part of what will be in the eventual rulebook is how to role play these sort of long, like kind of years long stories. Mm-hmm. We've had sessions where characters have played, not in a single session, but characters played a character from birth to death, and then their children, and then their grandchildren, and their grandchildren's children. So you kind of play on, and then watching these heirlooms get passed down, and what happens to them is sort of part of the experience. And now you've got another player who's playing the player sitting across from them's great ancestor who's using their blade that they were using at this battle here, is really epic, and that can happen all within the span of like 4 sessions, essentially. Right? I think that's sort of I'm showing my kind of Pendragon influence on my sleeve a little bit here, but it's sort of that idea of like making things epic by clipping it along.
Yep.
Right. I do love being kind of like zooming in, being granular, and taking your time, and role playing the scene at the shop and talking to the shopkeeper. But I also like having this situation where you're kind of picking out the points of a person's life, and then next session we're going to go, and it's going to be 5 years later. What do you do? And then you're doing little off meeting at the table role playing moments that become anticipatory when people return to the table to say like, oh, well, what happened in those 5 years? Was I successful? Okay, let's make a few rolls. And it becomes like a prelude to each new session to see what happened in the years when, I sent off this campaign to conquer whatever,
Yeah, that generational play is really, it's a cool way to see like a character's impact on the world and like, your impact on the world through the character. So yeah, I totally get that.
And I feel like it's missing in a lot of gameplay systems because when you see, like, I think I bring this up a lot on the pod, which is like when you see the Pathfinder like stat blocks or a character stat block in 5th edition, and you see like all the things that you get from a character from level 1 to like level 20. It's like, oh, that's really exciting. You have this imagination of how your build is going to be. And then what happens? You play a few sessions, you maybe level up 3 times, and then life gets in the way, and then you're done. You never get to see that character through. But it's taking that idea but saying, okay, what about your life? Like who's that character going to kind of marry, and then what are they going to be like when they're old? What's their funeral going to be like? Do they just end? And maybe Sandra, you could speak to this, but like one of the things that I encourage my players to do is at any moment during the story when the character feels like, man, this is kind of too much of a risk for what my character would be. I just want to go back and tend my farm. Then just do that. And then you make up a new character, right? And like just have the character be like, yep, I'm not just going to be taking part of this revolution anymore. You know, and then we'll revisit that character again. Maybe they get pulled into it and they're forced to be part of it and what have you. But there's this weird things that happen sometimes, and I know I'm making a lot of points here, but where a player will kind of feel the need to have to follow the party out of just like a convention of role play, right? Like, oh, we're all going into the thing, but can't my character be a coward? I think in this system, yeah, you could. You could be.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to roll the character in session 1.
In the 4th session, of playing this, like we had a party split and then had to make new characters to do the 2 different things, and those characters carried through, I don't know, 50 some sessions. But to speak on the generational one, I was the most skeptical of that working. Like, I know I said it initially, but I felt it deep in my heart because I'm the kind of player that gets really attached. Like, I've cried over characters, like, dying or even just fulfilling their duty. And it's like, but I'm not going to get to play you anymore. So the generational idea was like, well, maybe that's a solution to that. And it worked out so much better than I could have hoped for because the consequences of character 1 carried through to those generations, to that family, to that nation, to everything we did there. And it felt like, spoiler, one of my characters did have a very untimely death, which is kind of my MO. I push the limits too much on things. But the fact that, like, some part of that character could move on through the generations, through the daughter, through, it was like it took a lot of the sting out of being like, nope, that storyline is ended, because it didn't. It just changed. So really appreciated that storyline, even though I was your biggest skeptic.
There was a moment that Sandra's character went off to a secret meeting about some magical book and a MacGuffin, essentially,
because
that was like, what
magic.
because it was like in a story, this is going to be the moment where the character makes the great revelation that she then brings back, that changes the course of the country, which would have happened had they survived and got back. So because they did make the revelation, but then the secret meeting place got ambushed and like, we got to get out of here, and they didn't.
Everybody
and then
rolled the book got they ever rolled.
Yep.
Everyone.
The book got lost, and then the whole plot that, again, your character was essentially the main investigator, but was keeping it all secret because, like, if the cat got out of the bag, it would have led to other political problems and so on and so forth, because you're worrying about the political angle. But then once they died, the mystery sort of died with it, and the ne'er-do-wells that knew what was sort of happening were able to take advantage, and then that led to this sort of collapse. But now Sandra, as a player, has this meta-level understanding of everything that's going on that could have been stopped had, like, die rolls been better, and now you can't use it, and she's got to play as this character who's living in this new world based on, like, this, and it's just like, oof.
Oh, so painful.
That's cool.
So painful.
Yeah, and so I encourage any of your listeners who are like thinking about doing that, just give it a go, right? And like just be session 0 that with your players, right? Get them on board with being able to say like, okay, this character might live a half a session.
Yep.
Well, I think Other RPGs are more open to that idea. Like I feel like D&D has this like, I get my character, I want to play them from first to 20th level, like you said, but there's other ones that are more like you play a character for as long as it makes sense to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking like what you were mentioning about like from birth to death for a character, like Legend of the Five Rings has that, where you do kind of start off with how your character was born and then like their childhood and up through adulthood. And that's part of character creation for that. And you're still making choices as you go through it.
Yeah.
And then you also, before you're finished making your character, you decide where they're going as well. And like how they die.
Voyager is another one, famously.
Yeah.
Like you could die in the character creation process, basically, right?
That was Traveler.
That would be me.
Oh, Traveler. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Traveler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that like you have an endpoint decided for the character of my character wants to duel the king or something. And if you get to do that within the first session, then it's like, okay, well, that was the goal for the character, so I need to radically change what this character is trying to do, or start a new one. And it's basically the same thing, because so much of what that character is building for is already accomplished. It is almost a new person.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I'd love to build more systems into the game that, like, well, what do you do now? Okay, you finished your goals, and these are, like, how you kind of get experience by making small achievements that you want to get. Like, I want to visit that town because my character has been living in this town for his whole life, so that's a goal. And then once you've gotten there, hey, XP, this is where you've you've learned some things, you've experienced some of the world, and so you've done some things that give your character some growth, and as you, or like any person in the world, will kind of change. To bring up your point about 5e, I think what is coded within the 5e D&D character creation process is that, like, you're a hero.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so if you're creating a hero or like a superhero, then like killing them off in this like session 1 is either Suicide Squad or like it defeats the purpose. Whereas I think what I'm trying to do with this game is like ground all the players as like really mortal, or maybe not mortal, but very non-heroic. Heroism exists in the world, but like at an extreme cost. And it's almost like a lot of the stories and adventures that I want to craft in the world are tantalizingly asking the characters essentially, like, do you want to be the hero? Because this is how it's going to really screw up your life.
Yeah. But we've played a range. We've played a pretty good range of like everything from like literal like peasants to like, people higher up in like the social structures to literal gods, just to flex the system. And it works throughout the entire thing. It's just, I think that's really the key question is, do you really want to do this? Like at every stage, at every encounter, it's like the consequences are going to be real. You're not going to be at the top of the food chain, like almost ever. And you got to make sure you really want to go there. And I kind of worried that we would run more often. That's like the other honest bit. But the curiosity is always the pull forward. It's like, but if not us, who? Is always the question. We shouldn't be going into this city. We shouldn't be tackling this deadly thing, but nobody else is going to. And every now and then we do run.
That's the razor's edge balancing moment of creating a campaign where the characters are not the heroes. Because, it's an instinct of a person to run away from conflict or like life-threatening situations where you kind of want them to lean into these sort of tragic figures, like in a Cthulhu setting. Like you're playing a character that's likely to die, and that's the fun of the scenario is dying, right? In a horrific and spectacular manner. Whereas in this setting, the kind of joy is akin to that, where it's like, how screwed up is my character going to get pursuing these lofty goals in the face of adversity, and then either sort of accomplishing it and wondering like, what was it all worth, or kind of abandoning it and saying like, I'm happy for having not got there because the thing that I really wanted was right here all along.
Existential crisis, the game.
yeah, I guess so. That's it. And that's where the name, like the Balance of Aksio, comes in. It's like this, so like it's this balancing act of like, do I push my ambitions to a breaking point, or do I kind of curb them to a point where I could still be passionate about it and still be like feel like I've succeeded, and not have given up on things like that. So that's sort of maybe essential to it all.
Well, it's like, people who go on adventures, like within how D&D structures them, aren't like normal, healthy people, like mentally.
Yes, exactly. They're so weird. Go into this cave and kill all these trolls and then come back out. It's like, what?
Well, one of my players at one point was like, I want to run a normal person for one of our campaigns. And the way he did that was, it was this like horribly naive and like hero worshipping person that was like, I want to be like my hero and go on adventures. So he tags along and with the mentally unstable people because he's a complete fool.
Neurodivergent.
Yes.
Yeah.
It worked great. He was a very consistent character who was just a complete fool throughout the whole thing and kept taken in by all of the people that wanted to take advantage of gullible characters. It was very fun.
It's got like a foot in Don Quixote or like Last Action Hero or something like that, where you're following along the madman because like I'm either trying to protect him or I'm misguidingly wanting to be them. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, every character I make, I build flaws into it, like all the time, because the flaws are the fun part.
The flaws are the fun part. Daggers, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Or like Luke Skywalker before like his aunt and uncle die. Like he wants to go off and fight the Empire. He's got this like fantasy of going off and like killing the bad guys. And he wants to go follow his friends and do that because they've already left. It's just that minus the aunt and uncle dying. Like if you just skip ahead a year, maybe he does that anyways, and ends up in the same place.
Yeah, minus the tragic backstory. Like take away Batman's parents getting murdered, and he just decides to pick up and wear a bat costume and start fighting clowns in Gotham City. It's like, what's wrong with you, man?
Well, he listened to all these stories of like Alfred's special service. Kind of stuff. Like, I want to be like Alfred.
Yeah.
Okay, dear, just remember to put on your armor, says his mom.
One of our earlier sessions is called Batman is a Barbarian, which we argued that if we made Batman into a character class, he'd be a barbarian. Because this is that like he's like the cool and collected Bruce Wayne that just rages out whenever he becomes Batman. The method of rage is stealth and I am the darkness and emo cabaret cosplay, but whatever.
There was a 3rd edition character class that was created for that by Rich Burlew, the guy who did the Order of the Stick comic. Called the Champion class, which was designed around like superhero archetypes where you have like your alter ego, like human persona. And then the transformation is similar to Barbarian Rage, but instead is like a separate character sheet that's like your sort of combat form. Which can be like a hulky barbarian kind of person, but it can be whatever you want. So it could be more like stealthy like Batman is.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I've used that.
That's actually, to pivot back into the game, there are no kind of character classes within the game. You get a pool of points that you can put into your character, and then you slot them in as you like, and that creates your character, right? Of course, like in a published booklet, there would be like templates for if you want to play this type of character. This is sort of like your ideal kind of setup or like kind of quick build type of things. But unlike a lot of games where it's like, okay, where do you start at? And it's good, but it's also somewhat problematic for narrative games. It's like, what do you want to be? I want to be the fighter. I want to be the wizard. And once you choose that, you've kind of severed off so many other elements to like what your character could be, right? I'm gonna be this genre, but whereas like you're starting with a character idea and then you're building the character sheet to match your idea rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the main difference between like building point systems and class-based systems, is that class-based systems are much more like you choose a class, and usually that's pretty much it. Maybe you have a build in mind that's like, I'm going to choose 5 levels of that class and 5 levels of that class for how D&D is structured, but it's still like you have an endpoint in mind. And building point systems, I think, can still be that way, but I feel like there's much more freedom to be reactive to where the story is going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our next mission is a stealth mission, and I've got 5 building points. I'm going to put them into hiding and sneaking so that I won't be a loud, visible mess on the stealth mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've mentioned this on the pod before, that whenever we get points, which isn't that often, and I feel like that's for the best, they go into things that I've done versus things that I'm going to do. Because, like...
where did I learn?
Yeah, and if you really do want to do that, you really want to be a sneaky class, you're going to do sneaky things in the next session. You're going to try. You're going to volunteer. You're going to like fall on your face, and I feel like that just makes a more organic kind of play style versus I've got these points that I should use them.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I also encourage players to hold back some points for in the moment, because by holding back points, and I think some players might find and like be kind of recoil from this idea, but what it leads to is a situation where, okay, like I didn't put any points into stealth, but now there's a moment where I want my character to succeed at this stealthful moment, but I didn't put any points in, but I have like these 3 points remaining, so I'm going to dump them into stealth now. Okay. But what this requires in the moment is that narrating the how did they get there? Well, how did they learn that? And you could kind of have this almost like flashback sequence or zoom in and just cut away to a whole situation where you're having this montage of learning their stealth, and then now they make the roll, and did they succeed or not? And now they've committed the points, and they fundamentally changed their character by choosing to put all these points into stealth. Did they want to do that? Were they doing it just to sort of succeed in a role because they felt their character was going to die? So it almost encourages them to do it for the quote-unquote right reasons.
Yep.
in a weird way, right? Like that stay consistent with the story.
And the failures are so much fun, because if you like decide, I just had this burst of inspiration because I remember this friend snuck around this way, right? And then you fail, and then you have to explain how you got that wrong. That's
how you got it wrong. Like I taught you everything. God. Yeah,
I get so attached.
And now it becomes a new character.
Yeah, for the failures, it's 100%.
Yeah,
great example.
And there's tons of different systems that do require like that. You have to actually use the skill in a session if you want to spend your building points in it.
Or you have to fail in the skill to actually learn, and then if you fail at a certain threshold, what have you?
Yeah, and I think Blades in the Dark sort of has that. Like, it has 3 different areas, so you have to like choose within that area for what you're improving.
They're cool. It's a really contemporary RPG design philosophy, which I quite like. And that's not to throw shade at the classic just I get experience for killing monsters, but these are sessions that encourage combat, right? D&D is a combat-focused game. You got to fight. In a sense, I mean, maybe not in modern iteration.
Even when 3rd edition introduced multi-classing, it required you to say, I want to be a wizard, but like before you leveled up, you had to like actively say, I'm training into this path. It's just so many people ignored that rule.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the whole thing of like, and then let's say you choose a wizard class and you don't put like the 18 in your intelligence or your wisdom, or then like now you're like no longer competitive in the scenario based on like the monster stat blocks, which like that just seems to be all wrong. Like I want the wizard who's completely fail, who's like who's a nincompoop. But they're also really powerful. Like, how terrifying is that, right? Yeah, that's playing a character that's AKA the president. So, anyway, I didn't say country.
Take your pick.
Exactly. Sorry about that. Give you some edit decisions.
That's all good. So this is a full system as well. So you have like character creation rules that you're still working on, but are mostly solidified, and like monsters and all that other stuff as well.
The monster craze, so it's asymmetric. The way that the GM handles monsters or like kind of threats are based on like the degree of threat that they feel that it should be, and then you just kind of pick and choose from a series of criterion based on like, is it magical? Is it sort of a brute? Is it this and that? And then from there you can just like very quickly build your own monsters rather than having stat blocks for monsters where it becomes that situation where like if the character knows that, oh, it's a goblin and it has X number of hit points, then they can kind of like metagame the encounter. Whereas like every creature, and they're few and far between, it's mostly a human threat, comes into play. They have no idea what it can do, and danger, danger, Will Robinson, right? So it's meant to keep things kind of threatening, but also like not as threatening to have them run away.
So it is more like having a bunch of little Lego pieces that you turn into a threat.
Pretty much, yeah. And so I'll follow a sort of like a structure that I have before, knowing that they're getting there. And one of the other things that helps to guide players, and this is more for one of the things that I didn't like that kind of rubbed me the wrong way in a lot of RPG games is where it's always the GM who says like, okay, now make it this check, now make it that check. Right. And like in some more proactive games, the players would be like, "Oh, can I make a stealth check here?" Like they'll sort of like ask permission for it. Well, whereas in this game, there's a whole section of the character sheet where like I'll never ask the player to sort of make a roll in this area, but that's their prerogative to make a roll when they feel like a character is sort of torn between two decisions. And this is called ontic. Which comes from like ontology and like Heidegger's sort of like being. And it's like, well, who are you fundamentally? And at the start of the character creation process, you sort of lock into like what your character at that time is. Who are they? You know, what are the things that they are? What is their being? What is their essence? You know, how sympathetic are they? How spiritual are they? How sensual are they? How adverse to sort of putting their neck out to sort of say like justice and things like that. And they kind of fill those out to a certain number threshold. But every time they either fail to do or do, there's a potential shift if they make a roll for it. But if they just role play naturally, it doesn't get in the way of anything. But there's a situation arises where a player, and maybe I'll just pass it over to Sandra here for this one because you're.
I mean, I can definitely trace my favorite like story beats and character moments to the shifts on the optics, where like it's very easy to determine where this character starts with. Like, oh, they're going to be, like you said, sensual or religious, or for some reason I'm not a religious person, but my characters tend to have a strong one way or another bent to it. And I feel like there's so many like fall in faith moments, or, you know, oh, I suddenly do believe in the gods kind of thing. And it has such a massive personality change that I don't think I would have been tracking otherwise if I didn't, like, you don't reference the chart all that often, but you know the moments where you're like, oh, this is literally the split in the path where you can see your life going in two different directions depending on what you do in that moment. And the ontic somehow like helps focus how important that decision is going to be for you. So I feel like that's a pretty unique thing in this system, that it keeps it in the forefront so that you can make silly, dumb decisions. You know, we all just go, I'm just going to jump off the cliff now, right? But
do I sleep with crazy?
Yes. These are all life experiences, and they're all wonderful. But the ontic system reminds you to like have the consequences and really experience them. And it's like, yeah, I could go on probably for an hour about how much it has affected my character's path, but not affected the character itself. But I'm always focused on like, oh no, she's really gonna have to lose faith here, or lose, you know, love or whatnot.
Well, how mechanical is this system? Like, I know there's some like role-playing guide systems that are more like, remember these three things, and other ones are much more like points focused with like consequences or rewards for different point thresholds.
It's sort of it's what I'd like to call like a dynamic stat, rather than a stat that like either continually goes up or is modified by a die roll modifier or something like that. These are stats that are constantly shifting and moving back on sort of like a spectrum.
Yeah, push-pull.
And so it's a push-pull. Yeah, and there is a number that you're rolling for. You have a target. But what it does do is, unlike like an acrobatics roll or a reflex roll or something like that, stealth check, where like, okay, this is my character acting and I'm like sort of actively doing it. This is something almost, it's like a subconscious roll. And whenever there's an ontic roll being made, it's like to address Sandra's point, it's almost the moment when all the other players sort of like look up and they're like, ooh, what's going to happen? Because it's a roll that's out of your character's hands in a weird way. Like, it's a gentle distinction to make, because I think if you're making like a jump check or something and you make a roll, that's still sort of out of your character's hands. But this is something of a different kind. Like, I know my character to be faithful, but now I'm opting to make the roll that makes them potentially lose faith. Mm-hmm. And it's a moment where you're like, something's happening to your character in a kind of profound way that's going to change something. And it's still being worked on in the beta, but like, there are sort of parameters based on like character or like personalities that says like, I'm a person that will swing wildly from I belief to belief, or a character that's like a bit more, let's say, conservative or something like that, or introverted or whatnot. And you get to sort of choose that from the outset. That determines whether or not your kind of ontic levels have to be within a certain parameter. And once they kind of go out, then your character kind of starts getting more stressed, and other things begin affected mechanically on your character sheet because something is amiss. And now you as a player are trying to actively get yourself into situations where you can kind of test your being, that threaten your faith, or to figure it out. And then once you've done that, you kind of, then things sort of calm down, and you can now use these other pools of like mental exhaustion and physical exhaustion and stress to sort of like keep yourself kind of back into like, okay, things are good in my life, right? Yeah. It's like the situation in one's life, like where why are you stressed right now? There's a million things that might be happening. Oh, I'm working too much, or I'm worried about bills, or my father's sick, or whatever it is. Right, and it's like, it's sort of all of that. It's sort of it's making a mechanical that's happening in the background that the players themselves choose to lean into, and that the GM can sort of nudge players towards. Like, oh well, do you think you'd do that? Like, why don't you take a look at your kind of ontics here a little bit and see what happened?
An important distinction is it's not a pass-fail roll. It's not a 100% roll. If you're faithful, if your faith is sound, that's not the time you roll. You know that your character is not going to waver, or they're not going to run from the battle. They're not going to give up the chance to have the fling. If you know it, you know it. And
the more faithful they are, the harder it is for it to be shifted as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
The more middle of the road you are, the more swingy it is, and then the more you kind of get locked in, and that's where you get to as a GM, get to make really fun magical items that like then like when they put on like cursed items, like shift their belief systems and stuff, and they're like, wait, what? Jerk. yeah, et cetera, yeah.
I mean, it sounds very similar to some of the World of Darkness games, where they have similar thing with like different stats that are important for different things, and you can sort of be locked out of some of them if your numbers are bad.
I don't like to sort of lock anyone out. There's still a possibility, but bring it back to like what's it called, the Wheel of Fire, and again Pendragon again with like chivalry rolls and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're making rolls based on like not knowledge of the world. Do you know the history of this region? Roll a history check. No, it's rolling like has the encounter with this new belief system, this new cult, shaken your belief in God?
Yeah.
Like that kind of roll. And then that goes back to the title, which is the Balance of Aksio. It's almost sort of about maintaining this balance. And balance could mean I'm a chaotic character that wants the world to burn, aka the Joker. Well, there you go. That's why you have Batman, because you've got balance now, right? The immovable object in the whatever it is. Did we go off the rails a little bit?
No, we've just been. I didn't know there was this much mechanical complexity to what you designed. I thought this was more of a setting and not a whole system that went along with it. So this is very much more interesting. Yeah,
it's a little bit, but I wouldn't say. Well, I guess I should throw that question to you, Sandra, because I've never been a player in my own system, sadly. I mean, I wonder if that's one of the big designer challenges is like. To play test your own game, is like, while involved, I wouldn't call it a mechanically complex game.
No.
Right? Certainly not for somebody that is familiar with like 5e or something like that.
No, we've actually beta tested it with a mix of experienced and completely new players, and everyone picked it up just fine. In fact, probably the biggest feedback complaint was I didn't know I could do that, which is like such a great bit of feedback to get, because not only were they really engaged and they had ideas for this character going forward, it was just, okay, now how do I do that? And it's like, okay, you just tell me that that's what you want to do, and we'll have a session, we'll have a better session 0, and then we'll go over it, because I feel like players are used to rigidity. Like, I have to be within the framework, within the rules. I have to be the rogue. And that was kind of the feedback we got, was I thought I was being like a paladin, and I didn't know my paladin could do this. And it's like, oh, no, of course, yeah. So, and this is obviously the value of playtesting. And this, how do you present the system and the opportunities and all that? But on the sheet itself, filling out the sheet, using the sheet, we were rolling in 15 minutes. It was fantastic experience.
Just start.
Cool. Yeah.
Make the character creation process part of the adventure one.
Yeah, exactly. Because who knows what character they're playing until like the second, third, fourth session anyway. So making it like modular, like you just build it, and as you learn it, you still have points, you still have things that you can do. And there's still opportunity to change. I like the rigidity of a character sheet written day one and having no opportunity to shift it over time. Like, there's no way you know the character you're playing on day one. Like, no way. Otherwise, you are like, I would actually, my hot take on that is you're not playing the character you want to play probably by session 5. You have regrets.
Yeah. There's always, once you start actually role playing as the character, there's changes that come around because of that. Definitely. I mean, that's a ton on the system, and I didn't mean that it was like complicated to play. I just meant it was more complicated than I expected based off of what you've written for your survey. So that's pretty cool.
My bad. Yeah, hard to pick and choose what to throw in there. Yeah, there was so much. Yeah, it's like, keep it simple, keep it to the elevator pitch. Like, we could talk about it in real time.
Well, you guys had Sandra, I think you mentioned that at one point you were playing gods in the campaign world. So
in inverted commas, I'd say. Yeah.
Well, where I'm going with this is like, what are the gods for the campaign world? Because I'm assuming it still has sort of like this standard cosmology of, you have to have a god of the sun and a god of the moon and whatever.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. It's definitely nation-based or ideology-based, or, different parts of the world believe different things. And these oftentimes will come in conflict with each other. Sandra was referring to a certain group that is something of a secret society of people who have embraced Aksio, which is the magic system, have embraced magic, let's call that, to such a degree that they've become godlike, so thus that they can have such influence over. It's like that, like apocryphal saying that, right, unknown technology would be like magic to us, or something. Right. So they're so magical that they become like what's the thing that happened in the news recently, like Dialogue or whatever, like the Peter Thiel like secret society kind of group or whatever. Like, so there's sort of like the Bilderberg secret society group of really powerful magic users who are doing like Bene Gesserit stuff from Dune.
Yeah.
I'm mixing my metaphor all over the place, but they're going in to society, like implanting the lore of gods that is them, or a sort of a like cosplay version of them. Like, oh, hey, guy who knows how to manipulate light and shadow, like you dress up in this way and then show up and then make yourself like a god completely, and then we'll just sit and we'll just keep that, and then you teach people in your area to just continue doing that for generations, and then we'll have power in the long game, right? So that's sort of what they are. What gods are is pretty non-existent. There are outer worldly kind of celestial elements that are having influence, but that's still sort of like the unknown, and nobody on the planet has any clue that they exist or would say like they're god. But like in the booklet, it would be something that like a potential game runner might wish to throw into their session. But like all the gods are a fabrication of either some form of high level magic user who's using it for their own sort of gain / purposes, rather than like them being actual sort of like pantheonic. I don't even know how to say it.
Well, I think there's a couple D&D settings that use that as a similar approach, where the gods are just very powerful people that have ascended to like a extra level of magic beyond what's in the rule book, basically. But in some cases, I think it was in AD&D, some of the gods were just represented as like 40th level characters or something. Like that was it. So I'd say that's a pretty consistent viewpoint for how other RPGs have tread the road for you.
Yeah, there's like a not too slight influence from Tolkien as well, with like how like the Aasimar and the gods and whatnot, and Gandalf's basically an angel, but in the story for the most part, like is he really? And when he uses magic, it's very subtle, and I really love that idea of magic, rather than like let me choose out of my magic block. Do I want Burning Hands or Flame Ward or whatever? That is the stuff that I'm way against. And we can talk about magic if you wanted to. We may be going long, but I'm not sure.
I'd like to, actually. I think that's a good place to go next.
Yeah. Okay. But Sandra, did you want to jump in on the religious angle? Because when you said before, despite being a non-religious person, I think you're religious towards like mystery and mysticism, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
I'm the kind of person who grew up believing like magic really did exist in the world and things like that, and I refuse to give up on that. It's thus I write books. So I feel like when it comes to like the gods, the concept of the gods and things like that in the world, again, playing probably the most characters who have some kind of like faith element, what I think it really does allow anybody to do who has any range of faith or non-faith is like kind of, and this may be too heady for a game, but I don't think so, like tackle those kind of questions of philosophy and,
what happens after you die and
what are we on this chunk of rock for and things like that. And it's an interesting way to explore that in a way that perhaps you don't get to talk about with other people, or you like strange things come up when you talk about like concepts of faith and whatnot. And I never felt like I got too heavy-handed or any of that. I never had an existential crisis over anything. But you have some pretty interesting things come up when multiple characters start going, was that a god? And it's like, no, he's a 40-level magic user. But what does magic really mean to different cultures and different societies and different people at different times?
Well, and what you start doing as the character is you're having this discussion about faith. Whereas your player, as a player that, that was the thing that just happened now. But now, like, you're having this interesting sort of like philosophical, like Socratic debate over the nation of like fate or responsibility to a nation and things like that. And that's what a lot of the game kind of centers around, a lot of these decisions. I will say, and I don't know if this ever came up in conversation between me and you, Sandra, but there was one moment where I had a player had a minor panic attack. And this was playing in the system. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but like because I hadn't known at the time, but they had grown up in a cult, and they had gotten out of a cult.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And then the conversation shifted to like this conversation about free will, and they were just like they X-carded the situation. They were like, nope, and we were like, okay,
Yeah.
and we pivoted and we moved and we changed the story, but it was these are things that like we want to bring to the table. RPG has been used as like a therapeutic and like active force in like reducing anxiety, maybe in this case increased anxiety, sadly, but like in discussing things in a maybe safe or safer area because it's like once removed from like your own personal feelings.
Yeah, abstraction is really important when exploring those things, as long as you feel like you're in a safe environment.
Yeah. Anyway, tangent.
Yeah. Well, I mean it's important, but yeah, it's not everyone wants to do that, and so you have to like sort of clear it with everyone involved, and you do need to have sorts of safety tools to make sure that people aren't exploring. Like you can explore trauma, but you don't necessarily want to relive it. If that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, the introduction of like an X card element in like modern game design is such a great thing. Some people will call it woke or whatever, and I think that's missing the point. This is just as you say, Isaac, is like a way to kind of put a toe in, and then maybe even go a little deeper if you're feeling like the group wants to go there. But you don't know what baggage people have at the table, especially if you're playing with a bunch of strangers and stuff. You don't know where you should go, and I'd say don't go there. But if you're playing a game that's inherently political or kind of that tackles religious subjects, then you've kind of got to go there. And so, you also have to have means for somebody to say like, yeah, nope, this is getting a little bit too close to home. I don't want to go there. Like, I mean, we all seem to be weirdly okay with like adventure parties going off and just slaughtering groups of like orcs and goblins and stuff like that, which is a little bit weird. But like the new Ring of Power series tried to address this in a wrong way, I think. But anyway,
yeah. I mean, that's true throughout like every piece of media. It isn't new to RPGs or D&D or even this century. It's just how we've always had stories where we need some sort of faceless bad person that gets beat up and killed. Yeah. And 100 years ago or 200 years ago it was Indians, and then it was.
But it's not me. Yeah, it's not me. It's the other. Yeah, we need the other.
Yeah.
I mean, we have that now in sports, right? That's sports. When we like rally around our team against the other team, that's like civilized gladiator games.
Civilized othering.
The new civilized way of doing it is having like faceless enemies. So in a lot of video games, usually the enemies that are sort of the typical bad guys are wearing masks or are robots or undead that don't move their faces, so that they're not real humans.
Or in action movies, the bad guy mooks don't have like squibs or blood. They just fall down, and they're not like half dead and screaming in pain. They just like
they're not even important enough for a death scene.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. It's kind of weird, but yeah, they're little mnemonic things that we do just to like fall into the genre and stuff. But yeah.
I think that's also somewhat what can change a movie from like a PG-13 to an R rating is like how realistically they treat death. Where usually if you actually have all the blood, that's what pushes it to R from PG-13. It's usually blood.
Because how dare you look at reality in the face? R-rated.
Yeah.
R for real.
I would argue you are very lucky if you get through your entire lifespan and don't see anything tragic like that. Like, that is a blessing.
Seriously, yeah. Yeah, the stories I could tell of my trip in India. we will go there.
A little Siddhartha moment.
Changed my life. Yeah.
So, from what you said in your survey and what we've been alluding to here, your world is just humans for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's other animals, but not like, here's the elves and the halflings and the orcs and the dwarves. It's mostly just people.
Yeah, it's people against people. There are remnants of another world. Maybe like the video game equivalent would be like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Where like there are the little 4 or 5 kind of god battles. You can fight like the Medusa and the Cyclops and all that, but there's like this old world that has been like covered by like modernity, and it's sort of under there. And every once in a while, like maybe there's an earthquake or something, it just kind of creeps out and kind of gets out of the primordial ooze, as it were, and that's where you sort of like get this like mysterious element. And you could play as a GM with like what type of threat do you want, or make a whole storyline based upon like what's this thing that they're trying to explore, and then get to the kind of scientific background of like what caused this thing, and is it just this weird kind of like cosmological phenomenon wherein like all of the hate and suffering of this entire like city has culminated in this like black ooze that has now personified into a monster or something. So like Twilight Zone type of thing. So you could play a lot with it. This just goes into like what magic is essentially, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there are no like kind of set like these are the monsters. Definitely in the book there will be some like, well, try this out or try this out. Here are some things that we've used that we found effective that work. But it's all meant to be like play with the ideas and the fears of your players and make monsters scary, make magic scary. This is like a fundamental like design philosophy that I feel has been taken out of a lot of RPG games, which is coming back, I think, and which is good. And I'm okay with making magic just like I love playing those video games. I love Baldur's Gate 3 and all that. And let me be cool and make myself a cool magic user, but in my storytelling, I want magic to be just absolutely terrifying. Same with monsters. No character will ever have dark vision in my game unless they choose it as a power. But then it's going to come with some awful,
terrible backlash.
Like now they just can't see in the light.
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
one of my players was commenting about how like dark vision, if it's like really you can see everything in the dark, is like, what happens when you close your eyes? Like you can still just see the inside of your eyelids?
Yeah. That's nice. I like that.
I like that. Little veins.
Yeah. But making these sort of, I guess that has a foot in Cthulhu. Making the unknown scary is, I think, kind of essential to it. So you've got this layer of, we're just trying to deal with, a small, economic recession in my small town. We're dealing with this. We're just trying to get fed because the king is overly taxing us or whatever. But then meanwhile, there's this other thing because like some, scholar who's been studying the occult rolls into town and feels like they think they could become like this savior and just screws everything up. And this is sort of like central to like the story of storytelling and what it is that they know, what it is that they do, how they've tapped into this sort of like anthropic system of magic is, and then how that kind of butts up against the sort of like living concerns of the regular people becomes a lot of the storytelling elements in the system, I think.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it's sort of like similar to Earth culture in a lot of ways where you like ported stuff over.
How can you not? Right?
Yeah,
if I just came out something from cold cloth, first of all, is it even possible? Second, if I did, would it be even intelligible?
Yeah, it could be difficult. Well, what's a area that you've been playing in for a little bit that has like more development for it?
Ooh, I mean, I think it's kind of like, so there's a big strata of the history that we played in originally, and then more of what we're developing currently. And we've decided to come back to that area, what is about 30 years later, and see what's kind of like developed in the all sorts of like upheaval has happened. So I feel like that particular part of the map maybe is the most developed, and it's perhaps also the most recognizable as an entry point. You definitely have those comfortable structures of like kingdoms and those like jockeying for control and like who's going to control the continent kind of things. And then like, do any of them win? No, because some, terrible thing happens, right? So I would say that for a player coming into this world trying to get their footing, that's the easiest place to get started. It perhaps isn't the most fascinating because there are some pockets of this world that are like that feels like the most magical place I've ever played a game in, kind of a thing. But yeah, as a landing point, I think it's where we're playing right now, which is still somewhat like medieval, like late medieval period feeling.
Yeah, and it's a country in collapse, and so what it forces one to do, and anyone living in the modern world might sense this sense of kind of like shaky bedrock. Things are moving around and things are changing, and we're in a weird seismic shift of thought. And like when you're living, when you're living in a world where things are all politically stable, you just buy into that system. But in this part of the world, like the situation is broken, places are in active revolt or occupation and whatnot, and so it's like here are all, here are all the kind of factions that are vying for power here. Now choose maybe a belief system that you like, and now jump in and let's see how you fight for it. And then what that might do, hopefully, is that like through the playing of the game is then maybe even slightly idealistically inspire people to then take that idea and bring it to the ballot box with them, or to the to make political action groups and stuff like that. But like there is an inherent political quality to the game. And that's not necessarily related to something that's happening in the world, but just to get people to think about it, like the things that they believe in, rather than rather than get spoon-fed the things that you believe. And that's also kind of central to it. Like, okay, here's the things that you believe, and like I encourage players to lean into playing a character that believes something very different to what they might believe. Like, okay, let's say you're on a very non-religious person. Like, well, make a person that believes in a god, and then you start off with a cold open of showing how the gods aren't real, and then you go, then you cut over to that player now devoutly praying to these gods, and they got to lean into this and then be confronted or justified in their belief system as you move forward, right? It's lessons in empathy, really.
It's empathy, I was just about to say that. Like I think every story that you read, every story that you participate in, like all of it's just going to expand your mind to like want to seek out more understanding of those around you. And in this world, it's like that's just so built in, baked in. You're much more rewarded for playing something that doesn't look like you, sound like you, think like you, because all of a sudden I feel myself outside of the game wanting to just like, well, my character took this really unexpected turn, and I'll spend hours just researching that thing that they just stumbled into, and it's created some really interesting connections to other people who do think that way or explore those themes and whatnot.
It seems like you guys have a much bigger focus on like what types of stories you want to tell rather than like sort of concrete details for what the world is. Like you designed it as a good place to tell lots of different stories instead of I'm going to tell this one story like perfectly, and maybe perfectly isn't the right word, but you're embracing stuff that's more like organic and messy.
Yes.
And like that, like more authentic feeling from what you're creating.
Yeah, definitely. There are places where like certain stories would work better than others, right? You could say, okay, that story would work here. Like if you want to talk about like man's relations to technology and how it might be changing us, okay, that would work in this part of the world because this part of the world is not quite at a technological level that would be an issue. Or if it is an issue, it's on an issue that's different from, say, an issue like a technological man v technology issue would having, based on your
want to tell a story about like revolting against fascism, you can't tell it in a democratic society. Like
So it's the world is built in a way that like there's all of these things that they're pushing in at each other from various angles, and you would sort of as a table you would kind of choose your point of egress, I guess, to jump in and say, okay, that's the interesting story bit that I want. But that said, underneath all of it all is the sort of the magical element, which is the sort of like destabilizing, but also potentially balancing agent of it all, right? Like what it does do the fits of fancy of artists help to destabilize a region, or do they help to sort of like push a region forward to like this progressive ideal of something maybe better in the future and whatnot, right? So that's sort of what's kind of happening with like the magic system underneath it. So you can choose to start in a place of conflict between nations politically or like philosophically or where you want. This is I mean, it's a lofty design goal, sure, maybe somewhat pretentious, but you know, I think it's something that we should be looking at, and that rather than just dipping into like the fantasy space, like, you know, Tolkien's is a religious writer.
Yeah.
It's a religious story. And what god you want to prescribe it to? Well, he would have his version, but that doesn't say that the writer can't choose their own, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. Like Faerun, as an example, like has a very diverse world that was created in some of the early stuff, but they didn't really develop the rest of it. So it almost feels like it doesn't matter that they've got like all this stuff across the whole continent, because
like
all they
Chult and
care
all that
about,
kind of stuff. Yeah, it's
all they care about is the Sword Coast. Nothing else matters.
Sword Coast, nothing else matters. Yeah, they didn't seem to like build it up, which is weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I like just call it just the Sword Coast at this point. But
yeah,
having a more diverse world means that you can't develop it as much, but it also means that you're more free for players to do their own thing with it. And it sounds like the system you're designing is much more like, here's how to tell a good story, and when you have a world that goes with it, but you could also easily, like, other people could design their own homebrew worlds. I mean, that's how all RPG systems work, is you do your own thing with it.
Homebrew it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was an interesting decision that had to happen a while back. Was, okay, do I just create this whole section of the world, which is like the kind of like the unexplored area, and you just have to kind of either opt for that or opt out of that? Do you say like, here's the known world, here's the unknown world? No, like in this system, the world is known, it's there, but it's changing, it's ever changing, and like what would have been here now, you know, it's like every city is built on like the rubble of another city that would have been there years ago, and
right,
so
for exploring.
It's playing with that. Yeah, that's where the exploring comes. Yeah, the exploring comes in like the what was, what will be, what can be, and how do we make it that? And do we fail? Maybe, but if we do succeed, sometimes when we succeed, the thing that we've created is different than we wanted in the first place. And these type of stories, right? Anyone that's in game development knows that the end product that you create is going to be leagues away from the thing that you kind of started with, just for various reasons.
You hope it's that way, because how many ideas could you have possibly started with?
Sure, yeah. So, it's in that space, rather than the space of like, hey, like go. I don't know. Go kill some orcs. It's not.
Then have a crisis over it, and then explore that. And
yeah. Go kill another village of people that are called the Orc Society, and then deal with the repercussions. Yeah. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Transcendental sigh from Mr. Isaac Shaker. I love it. We're getting deep. It's good. This is it.
Yeah. I think we've gone through everything that I wanted to get through. Is there anything that you wish I'd asked you?
Great question. Even though I just use a trope that I hate. I hate when interlocutors say, "That's a great question." It's a terrible thing to say. Interviewer will ask great questions.
I can edit it out if you don't like it.
No, it's totally fine. Leave it in. I guess so. Having heard this, us talk about this game system, like maybe what? Let me ask you a question. Like, was there any bit of it that was intriguing or kind of like that sort of stood out as unique, perhaps?
I think the ontic system sounded pretty cool. That's probably what I would want to explore the most within it. Having rules for character motivation feels very interesting to me because I'm usually coming from like D&D, which is just like you do whatever you want, and it's not connected to any reward system or any like prescriptive system for what you can do.
They've got the bonds flaws things which nudge them towards it, but
unlike other systems like Blades in the Dark, where you kind of have to play your character if you want more XP, or Pendragon, where it's like entirely like restrictive in what you can do sometimes, where nope, you're playing a brave character, you're not allowed to back down from this fight. You have to go do it because you're brave and you didn't roll on, like under your coward level.
So this system might lean more into that, but with an out, with a potential out. So it's never so 100% that you have to do it. You can be brave, but it's designed such that even a roll of like the bravest character still has a potential breaking point. That can be shifted.
But it means like you much more are playing a character, like you're forced to because of that. Even with the out, like you're still encouraged to do it. Unlike D&D, where usually people are playing some version of themselves.
That's
on
true.
Some level. It's me if I was a superhero is kind of what I do when I'm playing D&D.
Our last week's episode on identity was sort of about that. How do we get away from playing ourselves in D&D? And I think the system helps people do that. Especially when you're playing multiple characters at once and they're in conflict with each other. Now you start thinking about what you really want.
Some of them are terrible.
Same here. I'm a fuck up, man. Oh wait, can we curse on this? I think I must have done multiple times.
You're fine, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's something that also comes with experience. Like I'm definitely more into playing characters now than I was when I was initially playing. And it also just as a DM, like you just get much more experience like playing different people when you're a DM.
Yeah.
Confident. And let me try that out. No, that didn't work. But how can I make that better? And
Well, it's just like I have to play like 3 people in this scene. The butler and the lord and the lady. Okay, so I have to play a servant. Well, that's easy. He has like 2 lines. I have to play the lord and the lady, and I have to have them talk to each other, and I have to have them have different voices and different things that they want. And
sourcing all the clothes is the more difficult problem.
I suppose. Play virtually, and we're just
finding a form-fitting corset these days is a real bind.
Oh, you want to buy Just have to say the word, Jay.
What, 3 times like Beetlejuice?
Yeah. Bustle.
Bustle.
Oh no, I started something.
You did.
Well, I usually finish off by asking if you guys have any DMing advice to give to listeners. I feel like we kind of just did, but if you have something else you want to add on.
I mean, obviously, yes, but like let your players create things in your world, DMs. Man, like GMs have their ideas of their world and they're so protective of these things. Just like let it out to the public, right? And then it becomes a new living, breathing thing. Embrace that seriously. Great, it's awesome. You'll go places that you don't expect. I mean, you still keep your rules around it, but let it go. If you love something, let it breathe, baby.
Yeah, don't suffocate the things you love. Don't do that. Don't.
Yeah.
I always have the good player advice, but for GM specifically, this is more of a support your GM tip, is like, don't poke holes in the narrative, poke holes in the world. Like, look for the things. Like, sneak around the back of the inn and look what's there. Like, make the world more lived in. The worst thing you could ever do is just follow the path you think the GM has laid out for you without ever exploring what's off the path. Because, and Jay, you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, it's not nearly as fun if we stay on course. Like, there's, like, you know your world, but until we start, like, checking, like, what's behind that tree, what's down that other road, like, you don't get to see that either. You don't get to create that. It doesn't exist for you either. And when we just kind of, like, impromptu do something different, like, you suddenly get to explore as well with us. So, yeah.
That hog gets right into my answer, I think. So, yeah, letting players do that lets you as the GM also be creative and create things that you never thought would have existed.
Yep.
Yeah, most people's favorite sessions are when they do something that's their GM didn't expect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You get to move in unexpected directions, and that's where a lot of the really most fun moments are.
I like to call that serendipitous discovery.
Ooh.
Yes, that's a good word.
Very good. Throw that into the conversation.
All right. Anything else you guys want to say before we sign off?
This has been a lovely conversation, Isaac. Thank you for having us on. It's awesome. Can't wait to re-listen. And to your listeners, join us over at the 3RPG podcast as well. And look forward to Balance of Aksio coming out at Kickstarter sometime in the future. ...
I mean, we'll definitely have some information coming next year, but I think we both have a lot going on outside of the pod and things like that. So, as the world allows us to create, we shall create.
Yes, in the future. All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
That was Jay and Sandra from the 3RPG podcast telling us about the Balance of Aksio, which is a cool project, but still premature to talk about, like crowdfunding and that kind of thing. You can at least follow the 3RPG podcast at their website and on any of your podcast apps of choice that you're using to listen to this. You can check out my episode. It's episode 61 on the 3RPG podcast, where I talk about my cool projects. And if you want to support this project for the Setting the Stage podcast, we have the Patreon. Even if you don't want to sign up to pay money, you can still follow it on the free tier, and you'll get access to the first 5 minutes of each episode a week early. You can listen to it on there and get a little feel for what's coming. And if you support at our higher level, then you get a thank you in the episode at the end, like for Darren, who supported this episode. Thank you, Darren. And thank you, everyone else, for listening.